President Lee Jae Myung has spoken of a peaceful approach to tensions over North Korea's nuclear weapons ambitions. On Press Perspective today, we touch upon these prospects. Hope your work week is off to a good start. You're watching Press Perspective for this Monday, July 28th here in Seoul. I'm Min Sunhee. The Unification Ministry here says South Korea remains committed to its push for peace on the Korean peninsula. For more on this, I have Celio Fioretti with French daily Le Croix here in the studio. Celio, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
I also have Professor Edward Kwon at the Northern Kentucky University, who recently wrote an article for the national interest on the new South Korean administration's hopes for better inter-Korean relations. Professor Kwon, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Right, we will start here in the studio. Celio, let's begin with a quick rundown of some of the actions taken by the Lee Jae Myung administration with regard to North Korea.
Yes, the Lee Jae Myung administration has taken several steps that signal a clear shift toward sowing inter-Korean relation. Most importantly, recently, the suspension of the long-standing radio broadcast into North Korea. These broadcasts were the few sources of uncensored information reaching North Korean citizens. Now, while the South Korean government didn't announce the move publicly, the presidential office has since confirmed that the broadcasts were indeed halted for some time now, framing it as a necessary decision to avoid further deterioration of ties with Pyongyang. Another action was a few weeks ago to send back 6 North Korean fishermen that drifted accidentally into South Korean waters last month, and they apparently said they wanted to return back to the North Korean regime. So the South Korean government made their way to North Korea through boats. Analysts found that these actions, although symbolic, mark a clear break from the hardline stance of the last president. It's part of a broader strategy to, some call like a strategic patience, to engage, giving some leeways to North Korea and trying to have a more diplomatic approach. But it didn't come without raising some eyebrows, especially coming from defectors or human rights organizations. North Korean defectors mentioned that stopping the broadcast is counterproductive, as it was really important for them, and they feel as North Korean, to have access to outside information, and that can really bring change into the country if it's maintained. And also human rights advocates on the case of North Korean being sent back to North Korea, they ask the government to have more control or observe, at least if the decision was made properly, if the North Korean really wanted to go back to North Korea. The South Korean government didn't want or didn't give them time to observe it. So there's some tension growing about this policy. Is it really good in the end for both countries to give some leverage to North Korea that much without having anything back in return? We'll see how this policy goes, but that's the line the President Lee Jae Myung wants to go for now.
Right. And Professor Kwon, you recently wrote a piece for American magazine, The National Interest, as I mentioned earlier, on the new South Korean administration's policy on North Korea. First of all, then, Professor Kwon, what is your assessment of the new South Korean administration's North Korea policy?
Yeah, it is very fortunate South Korea has promising leader who can reserve frozen inter-Korean relations. Such a challenging moment of time, the most steady and slow initiative of engagement and cooperation is very essential. So promising leader Lee Jae Myung pretty much deliver a lot of good ideas. For example, listen to gestures of turning off loudspeaker broadcast system, which was maintained very serious escalation between South Korea and North Korea. North Korea replied back to hundreds of thousands of pressure feared the balloons making more disastrous situation. Also, he tried to tout good relation with North Korea. He tried to initiate about regain about revival about comprehensive military agreement. This comprehensive military agreement is kind of important safety network between North Korea and South Korea. They provide for buffer zones in DMZ area and peace zones. And finally, this mechanism highly prevent any accidental military clash between North and South Korea. And then in the longer term, this GMA paved the way for denuclearization and permanent peace between North Korea and South Korea. Such kind of promising job made by the Lee Jae Myung make it more promising. So it is too early to evaluate about President Lee's North Korean policy, but I strongly believe that reciprocal North Korean reactions of turn off, switch off their broadcasting systems, and then reserving their direct criticism towards South Korean leaders and Donald Trump make it some promising signal, I believe. Thank you.
Right. For the time being, though, South Korea's attempt at extending an olive branch to North Korea has been met with a little bit of, well, quite a bit of bellicose rhetoric by its leader Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo Jong, who rejected South Korea's efforts to resume cross-border interaction back on Sunday, which was reported today by the regime's state-run media. What exactly did Kim Yo Jong say, Celio?
Well, her message was very clear and very cold. Kim Yo Jong, the powerful sister of Kim Jong-un, publicly dismissed any attempt at engagement from North Korea towards South Korea's new administration, saying bluntly that Pyongyang has no interest in any talks. No matter what policy Seoul will try to have, they will not come at the table to discuss. This was North Korea's first official reaction to President Lee Jae Myung administration, which has already taken several steps, as we mentioned before. And it's sort of this olive branch that it was extended to the North Korean regime didn't really change their mind. She even mentioned that stopping the loudspeaker broadcast was just reverting something that should have never been done by the South Korean government. So for them, it's still in the status quo, and they will not try to talk with anyone. She said that South Korea has a blind trust in the military alliance with the US and its continued participation in military drills, joint military drills with the US, and show that for North Korea, still they cannot trust South Korea so much because they're too implicated with the US. And so far, we have seen some answer from the South Korean government quite recently, just today before the show started. They said that despite this answer by Kim Yo Jong, the South Korean government will still try to pursue peace and try to continue to make a room for discussion. And they even mentioned the possibility of making some adjustment to US-Korea military drills. So they understand that concern from the North Korean regime. They will try maybe to adapt, to adjust to it. As again, it's still too early to see if it will go in the right way and if North Korea will answer also in the right way. But that's the direction. We'll see how it can work also with the US. How will there be their reaction to some adjustment on these military drills?
Right. So while Kim Yo Jong took issue with the drills between South Korea and the US, her brother Kim Jong-un, he told his soldiers last week, I believe, to prepare for an actual war. Could you tell us a bit more about these comments by Kim Jong-un?
Yes, Kim Jong-un urged his military to be ready for a real war during an artillery firing contest observed by state media. According to the Korean Central News Agency, North Korean state media, Kim Jong-un ordered his troops to be able to destroy the enemy in every battle, still keeping with his very militaristic languages, and to maintain a constant readiness for combat. Footage from the event shows soldiers firing shells out in the sea while Kim Jong-un watched through binoculars. What's more concerning is the broader context of this declaration. We know that now North Korea and Russia has a military alliance for a year now. Over the past year, Pyongyang sent North Korean troops, over 10,000, in Ukraine to fight Ukrainian forces. Ukrainian intelligence said they might send more, on top of also more materials, shells and missiles given to Russia in exchange for maybe technology or food. And South Korean intelligence says that already 600 North Korean troops died fighting in Ukraine. But this alliance, this military pact that was signed last year, pose a certain problem to the region these days, because we don't know what can be the reaction of North Korea now that it has a strong allies, and it seems the alliance is going quite well. Putin and Kim met in person last year, and they might meet again at some point. Many Russian officials made the trip to Pyongyang and seem to deepen this relation, and that's quite worrying for South Korea right now.
Right. Professor Kwon, how do you explain North Korea's hardline stance? Do you believe it's simply seeking leverage and not necessarily an escalation in tensions? I mean, some pundits say that its bark is worse than its bite.
Yeah, in terms of North Korean relations, inter-Korean relations, sometimes North Korea purposefully or intentionally push away and then push hard to South Korea. So most of people think about there's a two different role within this North Korean authority, bad cop and good cop. Okay, so for example, Yo Jong's harsh moment, harsh statement give us some chilling moment, but we may consider for Singapore's and Hanoi agreement between Kim Jong-un and Trump. At the time, North Korea, Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump replied back very harsh tones of word and fire and fury. And then based on those episodes, every word and audience may like that, maybe United States and North Korea may engage in war. But right after those kind of very serious bombardment of criticism, they changed their mind and came to negotiation table. So such kind of behavior, we can think about that. This is pretty much typical ways of North Korea in bargaining strategies. And then we think about those hardline stance of North Korea, we can be attributed by former Yoon Suk-yeol administration hardline policy towards North Korea. At the time, former President Yoon exactly said, in order to deter North Korean attacks, North Korean nuclear threat, South Korea indigenously develop nuclear bomb, and reintroductions of tactical United States nuclear bomb. And such kind of moments is pretty much undefined words. And then based on those bombardment of criticism, North Korea pretty much reply back more seriously. And for example, they develop more seriously various tactical nuclear weapons used for battlefields. And then the most serious one, North Korea exactly changed their existing military doctrines of no first use of nuclear weapon for non-nuclear power. They recently changed up those principles followed by law on DPRK published on nuclear forces September 2022. Pyongyang authorized potential preemptive attack toward US and ROK in emergency situation. And then also Kim Jong-un formally declared that the end of 8 decades of inter-Korean relations, and then North Korea totally given up any reunification goal. And then also he termed two Korean relations like separate, hostile, and belligerent states. At the 10th session of the 14th Supreme People's Assembly in January 2024. So we need to watch about those North Korean behavior and keep working hard to making lasting peace in Korea. Thank you.
Right, which is why the current Lee Jae Myung administration has spoken about the importance of a peaceful approach to tensions here on the Korean peninsula. That being said, South Korea is reportedly exploring the option of tourism to engage North Korea. Celio, what are the prospects of this option bearing fruit, do you think?
Yes, despite this difficult room for discussion, South Korea is looking at tourism as a tool for diplomacy with the North, a kind of soft approach still in this idea of strategic patience and making room for diplomacy to unfreeze the North Korean relations. According to Seoul Unification Ministry, they're studying various plans, including the possibility of allowing individual tourists to North Korea to travel to the north. It's worth noting that this type of tourism is not in violation of international sanctions. The sanctions are only targeting weapons program, not tourism revenue. And that's also why maybe North Korea is developing its tourism industry. We've seen recently with this new beach resort in Wonsan that is aimed for Russian tourists. That's a way for the Korean regime to get some money legally. So this new strategy of using tourism as a tool for diplomacy for the South comes with this strategy of Lee Jae Myung to restore diplomacy and lower the tension. Because it's not targeted by UN sanction, it might be also an easier way to deal with the North, something that would not pose too much diplomatic issue in the discussion between the two countries. And that might be an easy way to have some discussion. It has been tried before in the past, in the early 2000s. South Korean could visit North Korea in Kaesong and in Keumgangsan also for a resort. It ended badly as one of the tourists was shot by North Korean authorities. So it showed that there might be a room for possibilities, but at the same time, the situation has really changed in the last 20 years. The relation has worsened in the last administration. As I mentioned before, Russia is also there. That can also bring tourists to North Korea, and maybe North Korea will not want any South Korean tourists. They might be, for them, better off with Russia and not too complicated situation with another country. So it remains to see if North Korea will really listen to the calls of South Korea wanting to improve relations over tourism. For now, I'm personally skeptical they want to try that, but maybe one day there will be some room for improvement.
Right, then staying with this, Professor Kwon, what conditions do you believe are likely to persuade North Korea back to the dialogue table, Professor Kwon?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it is very tough right now because the recent international affair of including Donald Trump bombings of Iranian nuclear weapons and the Ukraine war, and then Washington declarations engagement of massive trilateral military drills. And then from those events, Kim Jong-un may have more firm conviction that nuclear weapon is only its sole major for his regime survival. So such kind of very bad situation, also North Korea think about that. What if Ukraine or Libya Gaddafi had not given up their nuclear weapons or programs, that such tragic incident may not be happen. They think about that. So a series of military drills followed by the Washington's declaration and South Koreans' indirect military support towards Ukraine's and by United States met with North Korean military dispatchment and artillery drill support to Russia. And finally, make it very important treaty, comprehensive strategic partnership between Russia and North Korea. For the North Korea secured financial gain from those military supports, partly relieve some compensation of their sanction from United Nations Security Council and United States. So such kind of way, North Korea may have no serious reason to come back to negotiation table. But in the longer perspective, if the situation is pretty much relieved and peace agreement reached by Ukraine and Russia, then North Korea, Kim Jong-un may think about that. According to recent news reports of North Korean sources, North Korea is struggling with rampant food shortage, and military soldiers save their food and deliver this one to those local areas. So I mean, nuclear weapon is pretty much mighty tool to guarantee their security, but cannot help improve their economy. So if we believe North Korea leader Kim Jong-un is a rational actor, then they pretty much highly desperate need to relieve sanctions from United States and United Security Council in order to support their economy. So based on those given economic conditions, if President Lee's pragmatic diplomacy and engagement policy would success, then Kim Jong-un may come back to negotiation table. So definitely this kind of situation is more important way we need to consider. So more steady and slow way and engagement policy may help to thaw these relations and cause Kim Jong-un to persuade to come back to negotiation table, I believe. Thank you.
Right, and staying with what Professor Kwon has said, Celio, despite the commitment to denuclearization that South Korea and its global partners have shared with regard to North Korea's nuclear weapons program, a growing number of pundits, like Professor Kwon said, are casting doubt on this particular goal. Could you touch upon these doubts for us?
Yes, skepticism is growing fast and for good reason. As we mentioned, the recent collapse of Iran denuclearization effort, triggered part by aggressive U.S. policy, abandoning diplomacy even though they were on the path for an agreement and a summit, and they decided to bomb the facilities instead, was seen by Pyongyang as really a proof that they should not trust Western promises for diplomacy, and kind of push them back into this rhetoric of nuclear weapon will be the only answer to protect the country. Donald Trump's decision to abandon diplomacy is not really a good sign if he wants to approach North Korea again like he did in his president term, because I don't think they will be this time willing to make any sort of compromise. Back then in 2018, Kim Jong-un was willingly to make some sort of deal with Trump. I don't think that would be the case anymore. And now there's more also growing calls in South Korea for developing its proper own homegrown nuclear armament because the US seems to be unreliable. So far, if things go that way and keep going that way, we are seeing a situation where on both sides of the peninsula, both countries will get more and more armed in a race of armament that will not be able to ease off the tension between the two countries. Even if now the current administration is looking for more diplomacy, we mentioned that it's difficult because North Korea is not on that path for now, and they're as long as Professor Kwon mentioned, as long as the war in Ukraine is not solved, North Korea doesn't have really much incentive to go back on the negotiating table. So for now, it's very difficult to see a path where both countries will not be more armed and ready to face each other despite calls to go to the table, to the negotiating table, but North Korea still refuses it. So it's very, I don't want to say gloomy, but it's very uncertain how diplomacy can make its room in this situation.
Right, but for now, the South Korean government has has asserted that it will maintain a peaceful approach to tensions on the peninsula. All right, Celio, I'm afraid that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for your time and thoughts. And Professor Kwon, over in the US, thank you so much for your insights and for making time to join us live at this very early hour on this Monday at your end.
Thank you.
Right, well, that is all the time we have today. Thank you for watching, and do join us again same time tomorrow.